I'm going to record. So hi, GrimGriz. I'm talking to you again a little bit better prepared. I know a little bit more who you are and what you're up to.
You have a better
Okay.
handle on the quality?
Yes.
Okay, let's see what happens. I'm ready.
Last time was just dynamic, but we need the static background too.
All right, fair enough.
Actually, some context. So so I didn't realize that thing you did with Paul was it was over a year ago.
Yeah, it was quite a year. Quite
Yeah.
a year.
So how did the year turn out for you after doing, because that was really was that really your first entry into the corner per se?
Mhm. Well, working with that channel was the first like legitimizing like loan of agency to be heard, I guess.
Right.
As far as entering a corner, but like as far as that channel was part of the corner, then I had been around in the comment section of a couple. I don't know if I had started trolling Vocation yet before that or not, but
What do you mean trolling for Vocation?
like I have a little crush I have on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we all do.
It's like he reminds me a lot of myself, but I have an irreverence hindrance, and he's like super good at being reverent and respectful and stuff. So it's like seeing that opposite is enlightening for me. But like when he was in the wherever, and he was at the agape part of his series.
Yeah.
And I watched that lecture, and like that for me in my whatever head, that Dean Martin started playing, and that's when it started. I have this playlist called my Vervaeke Troll Crush, and that one's in there. It's got I mean, it's not a skillful mashup, but it's like Dean Martin singing "That's Amore," but like with interlaced. So
so that's like the references you make take a bit of take a bit of thought, because that's the obvious, that's an obvious when you remind me of "That's Amore." And I'm like, oh yeah. So
yeah.
I really like your style in that regard, because you've got you say things that seem cryptic, but they're not really at all. They just require a little bit of thought.
Well, I think resonant is really what I'm aiming for, is because that's, to me, like those two things resonate. Like,
oh yeah.
So, and then I put them together, and if they resonate for other people, then yay, we can keep playing.
Well, I think you've really got your way of thinking synthesizes things really in such an interesting manner. I mean, I look at your tweets, and sometimes I know what you're saying, sometimes I don't. And I know underneath is a message. So I try to, it's almost like a brain teaser.
Well, a lot of for the initial and still sometimes for me use of Twitter was like, that thought is so pretty, I don't want to lose it. Not
right.
I have something, but yeah. So sometimes it's that, but other times it's like, you guys ever think of this? Or you guys ever think of this way? It's just.
Do you do those kind of things? Do you make those posts consciously, or are they kind of stream of consciousness in the moment, is what you're kind of saying? So you've got a lot of unconscious forces working that synthesize really well. Is that what you would?
The Legion? Yeah, the Legion's in here.
The Legion. Tell me what do you mean by the Legion? Because I have my own idea of what that means. I mean, like, I don't know how many of my videos you've seen, but some of them I really go into how I think that people are multiples. Everyone is. And that
It's
sure
like,
plays out in my work. So I'm interested in what you think, how you characterize that.
like if I believed there were competent professionals to talk to, I'd say, okay, look, what I think I have is screen-induced dissociative identity disorder. Too much time, and it's like, dude just stared in the crystal ball too long. And it's like the person you are when you're reading, that like that's the the divine, like my grok on the divine spark is like, that's what we all have. It's like when the author has written and you're reading it, the you that author is talking to, that's the part of us that's all the same. That's what we all have. And so I've just, there's so many models for, like, after eating so many stories, there's so many different contextual models for how I could form, pieces of characters cobbled together Frankenstein into what fits that context, I guess.
Give me an example so I know exactly what you're talking about. No, okay. So first of all, you're saying that relationship that the author or the writer has with the reader, they're in relationship together, right? And that particular reader. Now, you saying that thing that event, let's just say, the relationship event is universal, or would you say that this is a particular relationship with a particular person and the author, and this is its own unique thing?
Well, it's as unique as sleeping with somebody, but it's like your Lila
Right.
book. You're like,
Yeah, yeah,
everybody
right.
who slept with Lila is like all touched a little in the same way, but differently because it was them that was touched. And so like you sharing how it touched you to do it, and other people how it touched them to do it, and like that's how everybody gets the cumulative experience
Right.
of
Well,
what that impact was.
when people sleep with Lila, she becomes Leela. She becomes
No, I
this,
meant the readers like you who have read the book, not people in the book who have slept with her.
well, I'm just saying that in the book, when they sleep with her, she becomes this other. I mean, this is one interpretation. This is how I interpret it. She becomes Leela. She becomes this universal, always awake, always watching, ever present. I mean, she's a very different person in bed than she is the next day or the night before.
It's kind of like that though. There's so many
Yeah,
selves you leave like
that's
between the
right.
bedroom door and the mattress,
Yeah,
like that you just peel off that aren't present for the event that takes place there.
that's right. In the book, and I think it's another example of exactly what you're talking about. In the book, their biological selves, which are ancient, are who is together in that moment.
I had it cast as like it's like the gods of it take part in everybody when they're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a great way of putting it. Because those gods, yes, certainly, the gods of the biological level within a human being. I
So I
mean,
don't.
I'm using Persian terms, biological, the biological part of ourselves.
You wanted a specific Frankenstein example.
Yeah.
That's hard. If I watched myself, I could probably grab you a clip that did it, but like I don't. The way I document my life doesn't lend itself to recalling examples.
It's all right. I mean, I'm just trying to get a handle on what you mean by legion. Like you've got all these characters within you. Now you're saying that they're
Okay,
they're
let's do it like,
they're
let's try it like this. Are you familiar with the GIF search on Twitter?
no. Oh,
Okay,
the GIF, GIF search, you put in a
yeah,
word and you get a whole bunch of GIFs. I
and
mean,
it's
on my
pretty much
phone, sure.
like 3-second clips of movies but with
hmm
soundless.
hmm
It's because that moment of the film is resonant, and so it's basically the same part, the part that they're hitting in people with
hmm
that feature
Yeah.
is, it's the same as that, just like bigger and inside. If that, I mean, it's yeah, it's like the clip will play, the characters will present themselves, and like it's usually the ones that do are an amalgam from several movies. It's like my take on the archetypes from all these characters mash up into a thing, and then when that resonant thing wants to make an
Mm-hmm.
interjection into the conversation, then a clip will play in my mind, or a line. It just like a fraction of an earworm.
Yeah, and it is something that, like, it resonates for you, but chances are that there's a certain quality to it that's universal. I mean, because if you're saying that they're picking these clips out of the movie and they end
Well,
up
it's
being the gifts, then the gifts themselves are some kind of
and like the
have an
way you would
archetypal
use it,
quality.
and like over time, the way people would use it. So like the
Mhm.
way you see it being used leans you more toward using that. And I think the like resonating part is what I was talking about when like
Yeah.
who the reader talks to,
Mhm.
or the person, yeah, that it's that resonance. I think it's so it's I think that's fairly clear, or you can dig specifically.
Well, okay, let's relate it to okay, so you're not really talking Jungian archetypes. You're talking about whatever it is that you are plus the author's ability to evoke a certain archetype and your let's just say I don't want to go too much into Jung, but what that person is evoking, it's resonant. I mean, it has a certain quality. It's like that's what makes art, right?
The way whatever inside me wants to say what it wants to say presents itself to presents itself to me as a piece of an amalgam of stories I've consumed.
Yeah.
And sometimes the easiest thing to do is just let that amalgam play out through I'll say the line as
Mhm.
best I, you know what I mean? So it's like that.
Well, I was just watching your last video where this is happening in real time. You know, you're going from one video to the next, right?
Mhm.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Like if they're on hand, it's like
Mhm.
if a string plays beforehand, sometimes I'll like ready it up
Yeah.
so I can go through it with everybody.
Yeah, Paul does the same thing.
Mhm.
He just what's that word? Cues it up.
Yeah, it's the way things are weaved together for me, it like shows me something. And so I think people who see similar things to me might also see it. So show and tell, sharing, thinking together about all these things we're thinking about.
Yeah. 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 And as let's just say in this corner, a lot of that stuff layers on it. So you'll say something, Paul will respond to that, someone else is going to respond to that, and that's going to become its own thing.
It's interesting. Like the more and more
Yeah.
people and the new players that come in, that's part of like that's providing the like the narrative that holds it all together.
That's right. That's right. And we're creating the narrative as we go.
Yeah, it's like everybody watching right
Yeah.
now is
Yeah.
part of the corner being a corner
Yeah.
and not just
Exactly.
people having shows and
Yeah.
channels.
And you and I guess Paul moved over to some software, you know, the one that I've had so much trouble with that I can't use because it doesn't record properly on my computer, but it works really well on yours. I guess OBS or something like that.
Open broadcasting software.
Yeah, it's really nice the way Paul and you are using that. I mean, I think that you guys are kind of evolving. I don't know what else is going on, you know, with using that. I mean, I know it's primarily used for video, you know, to record doing video games, right? Which is a whole
Well,
thing that
it's Discord
outside of the
started the same too. It's a Venn of worlds. Um, like the gaming
yeah,
industry
yeah,
tech advances are merging with the corporate tech advances with the
yeah.
and the overlap is like I don't know, people who have used Slack, I understand Discord is basically one of those things.
I have no idea what that is. What's
It's corporate Discord from what I understand.
that?
But it's like these crossing of technologies are
Yeah.
opening up new opportunities for use. And I I came into it. There was streaming. I saw streamers first.
Mm,
Well, before I saw streamers, I ran across video chat rooms. There were like 9 people would just constantly log in together
mhm,
on this one website, like watch each other sleep. It was fine because of how isolated people were feeling. And then eventually I saw the whole critical role development and how like that audience became the chat of that audience became a community. And then I saw other streamers and other chat
mm,
rooms forming communities. And then there was this everybody's watching Peterson and he's gone thing. And so it was, things were starting to build and bubble. And I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I think I might be able to help. I know what's going on here, or there's opportunities you don't see yet. And now
Was
things
that
seem to be going somewhere real quick.
was that before COVID, or, because I guess streaming was around before then, right?
Yeah, I think it flooded the marketplace, which
Yeah.
allowed for a lot.
So how much do you think that this forced isolation that we're all in now, and you pointed this out on Paul, that we're all experiencing it now, how much do you think that this is responsible for what's developing in these podcasts? Let's say there's this format that's happening in these podcasts, like the one, like the one you do, where you're going through all the videos and commenting on them and doing this thing.
You might
And
call it a community recursion, to be friendly. What I'm going through the things.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt.
no, how much do you think that's a format that's like, COVID related, let's just say, since everyone's inside doing this?
I think it was probably like the panel format was a thing on streamers getting together. Like different gaming streamers would hang out on Fridays in the stream. So streams becoming chat places.
So
was
that
already
is
a
going
thing.
into, that's like impacting the way podcasts, that's like an artistic influence on podcasts. It's like something underground, sort of, you could say.
It's a
beginning.
manifestation of things communities have found, like audience communities, if you want to call them that, have found to community out when the show is not on. And it's a manifestation of that, I think.
But now they become the shows.
Depends on that can be, for me, they're ships. So they can be captained in a whole variety of different ways. And then you can have a fleet, or you can have a flotilla, or, it's, for me, the information in the water is working as a solid metaphor for, so I use it a lot. And Firefly was a huge influence on me. And it was a spaceship show, Spaceship Cowboys. But it was an ensemble cast. And the thing about it was a show that showed them getting together for dinner. And that, I think that was the secret of the recipe. But so they were a ship on the fringes together, a family, a ragtag put together family on a ship together on the fringes. And so the ship metaphor is my baby. I mean, it works for me.
What does the word estuary mean to you as Paul is using it? I haven't explored that much at all.
It's interesting. It's like, okay, so the Christians are going to be of the world again, without, like, it's a different of the world for me, but it's like they have some serious, there's a whole lot of serious stuff on the internet that isn't just atheist, but like what's really going on, and other cases for that aren't on the radar. I mean, they're still infighting. Like he was when Paul was talking about the Christian Overton window, it's about how like Rod Dreher and this guy or these guys are not, they're at each other because that's where their conflict, that's what gets the most commercials sold.
Exactly. Yeah.
But like, what about the left-hand path? I know a whole bunch about, and that it's just these hard questions. If you try,
what do you mean by left-hand path?
Well, my the thing that makes the most sense as a cosmology to me includes like, we're here to pick a side, make a choice, and then in the next round and the next round, like we're exploring different avenues of being collectively. But like right now we're together and we branch out, and then back up later we connect them at wisdom. So, and like on this life, in this thing, we're here to pick a side.
Okay, when you say pick a side, obviously, it's not as narrow as politically.
Oh no, it's love, because this whole thing is about love. And so pick a side is it's did you catch Karen with the priest when she went over that cancer thing with Levin?
Mm-mm.
There's this thing where like he introduces an ion channel, so the thing can't lose polarity and detach and become cancerous. And like that, the love angle thing uses polarity, and it's like in Vervaeke terms, fancy Vervaeke words, if you reciprocally narrow your love on yourself far enough, you pick the left hand side. And if you broaden your love wide enough, you pick the right hand side. And in the middle, you're still picking. So those are the sides and choices. And the people that are doing bad things to other people are only capable of doing it because they've reciprocally narrowed their love onto themselves so tightly.
Mm-hmm.
Or something. That's the cosmology that's the thing that makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna have to bug you about that one because I'm gonna have to get more of an explanation of that if you don't mind. When you
Okay.
say, okay, reciprocally narrowing them love on themselves, can you be more specific about that?
Oh, all right. Like love.
Mm-hmm.
Like you do things as a motive force. Love is a motive force.
Mm-hmm.
You're
It is the motive force, you could say.
like, so even the darkest, coldest hearts
Yes.
you can think of are still producing the same, like it's a natural function to produce love.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they do with it is like focus it on themselves, like usually on the acquisition of power.
I see. Yes, yes, that makes
Because
sense.
I love myself so
Mhm.
much, I'm going to do this horrible thing to you so I can have more power.
So total narcissism. So the more narrow, the more narcissistic, the more self-absorbed.
Essentially, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's clean enough for easy work. Unless you like, it might get more complicated if you look closer. But
Yeah.
narcissism is a good enough
Well,
handle. Yeah.
yeah, just a provisional way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is if the love is open, when the love isn't focused, when it isn't narrow, when it's open and it's accepting of whatever is presented rather than trying to pinpoint it on something, let's say yourself.
Well,
When it's
it's
open.
more. I mean, my personal take on the woo is that it's like you consider yourself enough of what's around you that your love borders on self-sacrifice in order for what's around you. Like you sacrifice the
Yeah.
love you would spend on yourself in order to uplift what's around you.
Mhm.
That's the broadening. It's like Vervaeke's care agency. It's the I care that you're able and not like if you're hurting so bad that you can't love somebody else, then you need some of my agency. But once you're capable of loving somebody else. If I keep pouring agency on you, then that gets toxic. It's you care about increasing everything's capacity to care. That's the reciprocally broadening of your love.
And it's also, and when you're talking about wisdom, to what extent is it an ego sacrifice? Because we hear that a lot in spiritual, work.
Wisdom
Because if
is
we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about in Vervaeke terms, something like enlightenment, something like in Christianity, it would be imitation of Christ, let's say. It would be the highest good within the context of whatever your practice is.
for me, wisdom is not this incarnation. I mean, it's there and like you can love and appreciate it, but like I'm very confused about how Gnostics supposedly believe that this existence is Sophia's abortion. Because if it is, and she's wisdom, then there's how can you like how is this place still bad? Just because the demiurge? I don't and it's these issues I can't wait to wrestle with all these people estuarying who have like these great minds that have all focused on like clean, good answers to things. And I got all sorts of trash I need sorted out.
What is your idea of this incarnation of the material world. Because one thing you said with Paul, and I wonder if you could elaborate on this a little bit. You said, I'm not sure this isn't hell.
That is Sophia's abortion. It's like, is existence good? I mean, we know it is. And we know the Bible, like they said it was good, but is it good? And if it is good, you compare and contrast your experience of that.
Existence good is compared to what? What else is there if what is your conception? What else is there if there isn't existence?
Well, it's how you pick what side to be on. It's so, if the atheists are right, then there's a measurement of goodness I judge my life at. Otherwise, I'll terminate. There's no reason not to.
Right.
So that was up for many years of my life. Finding reasons not to was the struggle, given the lack of faith.
Yeah.
So that's the primary angle I came at it from.
So having experience of not wanting to be here anymore, having direct experience of that.
Right. Is existence good enough?
Yeah.
To continue?
Well, in your case, it obviously is. So what happened?
Is it obviously that, or is it a weakness of character? What is character?
What is character?
Right? Because we know from Viveki that the content of your character determines what levels of access you have. Levels of consciousness you get access to. Like an undisciplined character, for example, doesn't have the meditative discipline to achieve those states, whatever you get off of that. I don't know. I don't have it. But like, what is character? What strengthens it? What weakens it? What does science have to say about character? Because I think it's F all as far as the dark matter, 76% of the universe, but we don't know. We can't see it. Sorry, a little better at the religious masquerading as a religious.
Wait, what do you mean by masquerading?
This, like, the priests, because they're wearing white jackets, they're not priests. The religious, like, there's the famous one I used to use, like way back from 2011 or whatever, was they stuck people in fMRI machines. And they had some of them talk about God, the religious talk about God, and they had the other folks talk about their Apple products. And the same parts of their brain were on fire.
Right.
So it's like it's like religion without realizing you're religious. It's your same, it's like our genetic engineer masters put God worship in our brain. And you can believe in something else, but something's going to fill that hole.
But this is only an fMRI. It just shows you that. It gives you some data in that confined space.
That is jumping to a lot of conclusions that would have to be verified through torturing who knows how many animals to be official science.
Oh no, don't remind me.
So,
well, where are you, if you don't mind me asking you, where are you? You've been in this corner for a while. You obviously have experience with Christianity, because you've mentioned a couple of instances, not like long, like, significant periods of time involved in one church or the other. Where are you with this? Because I want to go back and say, you're here, you're doing it, you must be finding something really valuable in being here, because you're on, you're creating these YouTubes, you're putting effort into
meaning. There's a sense of meaning. That's
yes.
Straight on. I mean, that's and like, that's really easy for me to come by right now, because I've long since abandoned, well, not long since, I guess it's, a decade now. But like, I realized playing the go to work game doesn't lead where they tell you it does. And so it's like, logically, okay, so the Holy Quest angle is I think we're in trouble as a species with our relationship with techne. And I think that chemically we're consistently poisoning as a norm. Like poisoning yourself is the norm because it's FDA approved. It must be safe.
Mhm.
And so it's safe, it's fine. It like, and the poorer you are, the easier that gets to believe. So that what's important is to get clean bodies,
Mhm.
not plugged into the matrix. Like as
Okay,
a
when you
thing.
say plugged into the matrix, let's say if we're talking about clean bodies, if we're talking about substances, you're saying like you're not going to Walmart and buying 5 bags of Doritos and 3, orange sodas, and that's what you're gonna eat.
And then going home and getting in the VR.
Yeah. So you're
That's
talking about
that's
there's certain things that we do have choices about. I mean, if you're saying, left or right, if you're saying one choice or the other, on a lower level, you're talking about making, practical material decisions, not to be plugged into the corporate FDA approved toxic food matrix,
no no
for
no no no
example.
no no. No. That's like at the core deepest level. It's the fear that if I had been born 20 years later,
Mhm.
I would be at severe risk for going into VR and never coming out. And the only way to really see the gain of not doing that is if your system's running clean.
Mhm.
Um, and like literally, as VR gets better, as the metaverse government unrolls like its
Mhm.
cages,
Yeah, yeah.
um, the best way to get like I ran into paintball like 5 years ago. I actually played, and it comparatively compared to like launching rockets as Pharaoh and
Mhm.
seeing some scrub walk into it, like compared to that, paintball was as close as it got.
Now you're
So
talking about actual paintball in the real world, right?
right,
You're not talking about virtual.
right. But I'm saying the experience of the actual paintball
Yeah,
was as
yeah.
close as I got to the high of really good video games. And I
Mhm.
that's not even VR. So like the VR kick is gonna be ridiculous. But paintball might be the best thing we have to come against it. And if we're going to support people doing it, churches need you young people. And so they're the best people to pull kids out of the matrix VR. And if they sponsored the team, kids would go to church just to play the paintball because paintball is that good.
Yeah.
And then you get men, young men, doing physical competitions, reasons to live
Mhm.
clean, be clean. And then they're
Yeah.
plugged into Jesus because they have that opportunity thanks to the Paintball for Jesus
Jesus.
program.
Yeah. So are you saying that, all right, your experience is paintball is as close as you can get to the dopamine high
As
of
close as I've personally gotten.
sure. And so you're saying something like that can sort of be a transition back into the actual world. Is that kind of what now
It
you're
might
doing it.
be. I encourage it to be done preventively. Like between by 14, get those young men in their
Yeah.
bodies again because
Yeah, in their
as
bodies.
they're
That's what I
changing,
mean.
especially,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what in terms of getting out and being in our bodies, besides paintball, what do you think we need to do?
Getting is what.
I mean, going out the door and being in nature, for
Oh, like
example.
actual
Yeah,
embodiment.
yeah, yeah,
Wow,
embodiment. Yeah.
wow. I am. My personal interest leans toward Tai Chi first.
Right. So is this something you're doing?
No, my interest leans towards.
What would it take? All right, because we're really running up against something that I think we're all kind of struggling with is it's so easy. There's a lot of good that's happening here in the corner on YouTube in the virtual world, no doubt. But you're also saying that this is a world that a lot of people are sucked in, and in 20 years, if it continues this way, you just enter it and you never leave.
This is mission work from like you guys shouldn't be here. It's like, I went here voluntarily. I Rip Van Winkled myself.
Mhm.
I saw too many commercials, said I don't want to grow up. So I was like, I can pull that off. I don't know.
How
But
do you feel now?
maybe 27. There's a lot of emotional maturity that I might manage to dodge before this ride's over. But
would you say this ride has given you some emotional maturity that maybe you don't think you had before? Because you frame yourself as someone who's avoided maturity, but when I talk to you, I don't 100% buy that.
Well, I've avoided responsibility. So to that extent.
No, you mean responsibility in terms of career, school, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all the standard human goals.
But in terms of emotional, let's kind of try to separate them a little bit. I mean, I get it. I get, Jordan Peterson, you need a job, you need the 5 things that you need to be a person in the world. I get it.
I've done enough pain to not be a teenager.
Yeah.
So that's why I kick it up to like 27. But
yes.
I don't know what it's like to make hard sacrifices for things I love or people I love or whatever I love. So
you don't feel like you've made any sacrifices for something you love?
Well, they got this rule that like you can't really love anything until you love yourself. So I'm still there.
Still where?
Can't love yourself. And so I'm just trying to help out while I can, because that theory I have is that if I kick it 51% or more outward, I'll be all right and still make it to the next level.
Well, you're saying that, but you didn't make the left-hand choice, though.
That's the hard one. Mm-hmm. Like according to the woo I've heard, mm-hmm. like all you got to do is 51% to like love everybody to make it on that side. But like it's like the Sith, there's a whole bunch of Jedis, but there's only 2 Sith. So it's like much stricter competition, and you got to do things that I'm not, that are left hand to get there, and it's easier. I don't like hurting things. That's not.
Would you say that being someone who doesn't like hurting things is a form of emotional maturity in itself?
No, because it's like
you would say that's a temperamental.
I don't want the guilt of being the one that hurt the thing, so I'd rather disappear and be nothing. And so I think it's a sense of self-insufficiency. Like it's like Peterson's like weakness is not meekness. You're not choosing to be meek because if you can't do it. So I think it's one of those, orange chakra things. But
so what is compelling you to do your channel, do you think? Because I mean, I would say that you're engaging a lot and trying to push things in a direction of like uncovering, what you're doing with the synthesis and what you're doing with the connection, with the Legion. Well, it looks to me like you're trying to, you're trying to push things in a more enlightened direction. You're trying to uncover meaning. You're trying to expand upon things. That's like, I would say, that is something positive.
Well, I think we can summon a beholder, and I think it'll be a great benefit if we do. I think we're moving into what my woo calls the social memory complex. It's like, and we need more eyeballs. So like, say Paul's terribly wrong about something, and somebody in the audience sees it, like there can be that course correction because we're engaging in this corner communal thinking. Mm-hmm. And so a beholder is like Paul's interested in certain topics and has X amount of time to see things. Mm-hmm. People who have more time that are interested in the same topics can bring him clips of the best things that their eyeball stock saw. Or like at some point it's going to be like all the different clips come into a group of people who are better filters for what Paul is actually interested in, or where the tip of Paul's thinking on a topic is actually more than his interest, and how to build on like where the community is on that topic in that thought, based, and then Paul will see it. The
Mhm.
collection of those is what Paul will get. Like the same way the president ends up getting a brief, you know. It's how those it's how I think we can scale as a Discord clip video community is the beholder.
Yeah, but what is the value that's, what is the value behind that? Why are we doing it at all?
It's like that's the edge of our thinking. He's like the, I don't know, not like not individually, but like the edge of the community's understanding maybe, and working together we can broaden that, our
Okay,
awareness that
so
way.
that's a very positive value. It's coming at it from a space of love, let's just say, in my opinion, from what you're telling me. Because there's a million and one ways you can go with your YouTube channel. A person can go. Like when you were talking to Paul, you said you were in the truther space or the conspiracy space. I've seen some of those people. Every now and then they'll say something interesting, but it's primarily, from what I can tell, uh, that's coming from a place of, there's a certain malice in it.
There's a lot of special victims unit in the, because the people who have been betrayed
Yeah.
are looking for betrayal, and truther channels are like how the media and government are betraying us. So that's the target demo. That's what sells commercials there. It's
Yeah,
like,
what
you
sells
know,
commercials there. And I'm saying that there's something in that that, isn't coming from that's coming from a value ultimately of this with this narrowing onto oneself, because there is something in that community that, and I'm not saying every single thing that happens there is something that I find distasteful. I think absolutely it's an underground community, and from the underground come the things that transform things for the better. So there's ideas there that absolutely, I think are
you can get
dynamic,
some
let's just
gems in
say.
the swamp.
Yes, yes, they
Yeah.
are absolutely dynamic ideas. They're absolutely people who might have something better in mind, or at least going towards something more positive, or going towards, coming at it from a value that's not totally self-absorbed. But there is so much self-absorption in that situation.
That's in, like I said, I think where the screen is inducing self-absorption. This person you are when you're reading, the person you are
Yeah.
when you're scrolling your YouTube, that's a different you than the person that you are at this level, and especially in your personal relationships. And you're spending way more time
Yeah.
being this character than the meat space character.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, in certain communities, you're really doing this for your own aggrandizement, and that is certainly an option that many YouTubers
Oh, you mean as a
make.
YouTuber? Yeah, the
Yeah.
grift. Yeah.
Whereas what you're doing, and hopefully I'm doing, and hopefully, it seems like most of the corner is doing, is trying to build something better. Don't want to say society, I don't want to say self, I don't want to say, I just want to say something better, because we're part of all levels, right? We have our bodies, and we have our society, our community. We have we have our ideas, and the evolution of ideas, and all these things together. So in general, you're trying to better this whole thing by adding to it, by riffing off of it, by connecting with people. And I don't mean like some, you know, I don't want to make some anodyne namby-pamby statement like, well, what we really need now is community. I don't mean it that way. I mean that there seems to be behind this, and behind what you're doing, and hopefully behind what I'm doing, a natural desire for just a betterness.
Well, I think we, at least on some level, all recognize the failures of everything around us collapsing, and know that there's no reason for it, because we have all the tools we need to be doing better, but for some reason we're not.
Right.
I think that's maybe the meaning crisis is like,
Yeah.
why aren't we aiming somewhere?
Why aren't we aiming
Really?
somewhere? And
Somewhere.
are we
Somewhere.
trying to find where that somewhere is together?
So, but that's like I'm pitching human telos right now.
Yeah.
Like, what are we pointed at?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, as a person making a choice of how to live my life,
Yeah.
I can lean Amish or lean VR.
Hmm.
And that's not what humanity, we're not exploring the ocean. Space is a
Yeah.
joke. So it's, I don't know. And if that's going on, then maybe I'm part of the group that's been given the mushroom treatment, fed
Hmm.
some. So like learning to see with others and help other people
Yeah.
see is my best chance of getting a feel for where to aim. And once you have an aim, then you're not in meaning crisis anymore.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I think that makes sense. So the point I'm making is, of all the ways one could go with your YouTube channel, you're in participation in the one that's trying to awake from the meaning crisis.
Yes, yes. Why
I
that
mean,
one?
I, I'm just saying that you seem to be on a good track, and hopefully we all
Oh,
are,
oh yes,
hopefully
yes.
we all are.
I definitely think this is the best place to aim.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, not just because Christians are the best target demo to pitch PB for J, but um, the return to the sacred is a fascinating thing to be a part of.
Isn't it? Isn't it? It's fascinating.
Like
And
a
it
guy,
feels right,
a Halloween or two ago, two Halloweens back, I was like part of a Zoom call with Peugeot and a guy who is now a priest in Austria.
Hmm.
So who knows? I was running the tech in the back. I didn't say anything, but it's cool to be something. It's cool
Yeah.
to be a part of something. When I was just
Yeah.
playing video games the other day, I
Yeah.
mean, how many years? Like how many? It's like I had opted out because I wasn't interested, and I'm still not. I mean, I'm not interested in being Amish particularly.
Mm-mm.
I'll go to a nice commune if it's got internet access, but being on this crystal ball, you can't. A global chance of like it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon game.
Mhm.
Like 3 days from now, there's no idea what mind might be exchanging with mind because the base connection is
Yeah.
now there. So anything
Yeah.
can happen.
Yeah.
Is this close enough to an hour? I don't like to go this long. I'm running out of steam. Oh
Okay,
no.
let me ask you one last question.
Oh,
And
you
maybe
wanted the NPC. You want to talk NPCs.
yeah, yeah. So pulling ourselves out of NPC, what do you think? What do you think is the way forward? I mean, you're doing it. You're
Well,
doing a
what's your
channel,
take
you're
on
putting stuff
NPC?
up. Well, what I got from it was you just playing video games and living in that world, and you're not participating, you're being entertained. Looking at YouTubes rather than making them. That's what I get.
That's part of it. That's part of it. I wanted because you told me you wanted to talk about it, so I spent some time in the shed thinking about it.
Okay.
And one of the things is that NPC is functionally a verb too.
Mhm.
So like you're NPCing when you're at work and you're like really angry, but you're still giving the best customer service.
Mhm.
It's because and like the NPC role when you're doing it like that is because like as far as the hero's journey goes,
Mhm.
you're part of a story, but it's not yours. You're a non-player character in that story. It's like so the player part, it's like main characters in a show. It's not part of the cast.
Mhm.
Um
I know technically what it means in terms of video games.
and so I didn't know that if that was the relating to the like hero's journey part was out there enough. So and I know other people might see this.
I'm wondering, how is it? Because you're saying,
Well, like first you have to want to survive.
mhm,
To work up the chakras. You have to want to survive, and then you have to feel like that you're worthy enough to participate, and then you
mhm,
got to learn the social skills,
mhm.
and then you start applying love, and then you blossom into a character rather than an NPC.
That makes sense. Where are you with this?
If you abandon all hope, you can kind of like fiddle around on the yellow and green ones with this big giant void of the survival, caring if you survive or having any actual self-worth, and still be help out a little bit. And it's enough to get you through until your body ages out, maybe. I don't know. That's my general operating state. And then like some days I feel good and some days it gets worse.
Yeah. Would you say in general, since you've been involved in this, this is you moved over in this direction on your channel?
Since Paul gave me the loan of agency, and like having the patron kickoff was kind of a weird thing because like the first person wasn't related to my channel at all.
Yeah.
He had like offered me a job and I was like, no, but I got a Patreon. And so it's like, it was just charity, straight charity, had nothing to do with the channel. But then between those two things and like that, it might be a way to pay the bills without having to worry about taking things you don't want to take and or lying about wanting to be there. That there's a lot of hope in that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And so that's a lot of fuel. Hope is fuel.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm really enjoying your work. And
the attention is certainly fuel as well. So
yeah.
I hope that it's actually giving value.
Well, you're so, I mean, I'm sure you had trouble, like you said, you had some trouble in high school and stuff. I'm sure you were somewhat isolated, I'm guessing you were somewhat isolated just because you see things more deeply than a lot of people. Is that fair to say?
It's like you have a really hard time getting invested in what everybody else seems really.
Yeah, I'm going to say you're really, you seem to be an exceptionally intelligent person to me. And you're also like, you've got you're really good with words. You said you used to like to write. So it seems to me that having those skills, having, being as smart as you are, having good verbal skills, and this ability for synthesis, you might have, do you feel like maybe you found something like a vocation?
I certainly hope so, because the other avenues weren't fulfilling.
Well, that's what I'm saying. These things are your, like if you can actually use the things we're good at, right? And make something out of them.
Did you ever see Futurama?
Yeah.
The very first episode is the only one you need. But like,
all right.
I hate how like the main characters, one are Fry, Bender, and Leela, I think is her name. And her job at the start is giving people their job injection.
Oh, God, that is hilarious.
And like he was gonna inject him with pizza delivery guy. And like he ends up being a pizza delivery guy, but won't take the injection. And then he meets the robot in the suicide booth. So I don't know. Cartoonists are prophets.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for asking for another one. That's always a good
well,
sign.
I didn't do my, I didn't learn enough about you before I did that, and that was a big mistake. So
I know that the last one was special because like for some reason you're easy to talk to. So I got a lot of stuff people were confused about out straighter than I had anywhere else. And
good. I'm glad.
There's that. Anyway, thanks. I'll go away now.
All right, Grim. I'll talk to you again.
Bye-bye.
I'll force. I'll take
it.